Okay, using this graph on the right side, graph of the function, we need to find f of negative 28 and f of negative 12. All right, let's see, negative 28. Looks like it's going to be 16, 20, 24, then this is going to be 28, right? So this is negative 28, and this is coming negative 6. So it's going to be negative 6. Okay, next, negative 12. So negative 12, it's going to be right here, negative 12, right? And y is going to be, x-axis goes by 4, and y-axis goes by 3. So this is going to be negative 12 and 6. 6 or, no, 9. Okay, and this is negative 28 and negative 6. So this one is going to be positive 9. Okay, next we need to find f of 24. Where is our 24? It's right here. And that is going to be equal 6, right? So 24 and 6. And one more point, f of 0. Where is my f of 0? It's right. X is 0, right here. And this is, how much is this point? There we go. This is negative 3, right? So negative 3. So f of 0 is going to be equal negative 3. Okay, next we need to find out if f of 8 is positive or negative. Let me move a little bit separate because it's different type of problem now. F of 8, where is our 8? It's right here. Positive 8, here. Right? This is our positive 8. And f of 8 is going to be negative, right? What else? How about f of negative 8? It's right here. It's going to be positive, right? Okay. Next. For what value of x, f of x is equal 0? So f of x is equal 0 for what value when x is equal how much? Let's see. At this point, right? At this point, at this point. So it is going to be negative 24, negative 4, and positive 16. Okay, next question. For what value of x, f of x is going to be greater than 0? All right, f of x greater than 0. For what value of x, f of x is going to be greater than 0? Well, let's see. When it's getting positive, this is the part where it's getting positive, right? So that makes negative 24 and negative 4, right? Okay, when x is greater than negative 24, let me move this away. Okay, and less than negative 4. When else? We have is positive on this piece, right? Also, f of x is greater than 0. And that is when x is greater than what? This point is getting 16, right? 16 and less than 24, correct? This point, 24. Okay. Let me see. Next one, what is the domain of f? All right. The domain, it's a value of x, obviously. So let me write down. And it's gonna be domain. So this is the beginning, this is the end, right? The value of x here, negative 28, and value of x negative at a positive 24. So domain is gonna be between negative 28 and 24. So x is greater equal negative 28 and less equal positive 24. As we can see, n28, negative 28, and 24 are included because we have here solid point, which means it's included. Now, if it would have empty circle like this, then we would say it's not included, these points. Okay. Range, now we are going to identify the range. Okay. So first of all, domain is a change of x. Range is a change of y. So how the range is changing? What's the lowest point on the y? Is this one, right? Which is 6, negative 6, and the highest point on the y is positive 9, right? So the range is gonna change between, and it equal sign also, negative 6 and positive 9. Okay, now let's find x-intercepts. X-intercept. Where do we have x-intercept? We have at the point. X-intercept, what is it? The one where graph is crossing, where x is equal, y is equal 0. That is x-intercept, right? Which is going to be same point like here we had, right? F of x is equal 0. Those where x-intercept at the x-intercept. So it's gonna be this point, negative 24. It's gonna be this point, negative 4, and it's gonna be this point, 16. So x-intercept is gonna be x is equal negative 24, negative 4, and positive 16. Okay, y-intercept. Now let's identify y-intercept. Okay, when is going to be, what is going to be y-intercept, which means at what value of y x is going to be 0. Here, when x is 0, right, we are getting negative 3. This is where x is 0. It's right on the y. So we are getting y is equal negative 3. Okay? Let me move this here to save some space. Okay, very good. Next one, let me see what else is interesting here. We can find out from the graph what other information we can find from the graph. How often does the line y is equal 1 intercept the graph? How often the line y is equal 1, the graph will cross? So how often does the line y is equal 1 intersect the graph? So let's see, if y is equal 1, it's going to be, let me change different color. 1, it's going to be somewhere here. So if I provide this line, it's going to cross 1, 2, and 3, right? So x is equal, so it's crossing, well, let me put this way. Crosses graph 3 times. Okay. Now, how about y? How about x? X is equal to, how many times it crosses the graph? X is equal to, if this is 3, here is 2, right? How many times it crosses? Once, right? Right here. So crosses graph once. Okay. Next one. For what value of x does f of x is equal negative 6? So for what value of x, let me write down like this. Let me move 1 second. Okay. So for what value of x f of x is equal negative 6. So let's see, where do we have negative 6? It's right here. So for what value of x, it's f of x is going to be negative 6? When x is equal, what? Negative, positive, what? 8 and negative 28, right? Because this is 8. So it's going to be negative 28 and 8. Okay. And lastly, for what value of x does f of x is equal 9? is equal 9. Where is that? It's right here. F of x is equal 9. Right? At what point of x is the f of x is equal 9? X is equal how much? Negative 12, right? Right here. At the point negative 12. Okay, we are done with this question. Moving to next question. Let's see what's we're gonna do with next question. What kind of question we have? On this graph, first of all, we need to identify if this graph a function or not. So let me write down. Function, not function. Well, let's see how we're going to identify. We're providing vertical line. Let's take thicker one. If the vertical, this is what we call vertical line test. If the vertical line is crossing the graph in more than 1 point, well, in this case, we have 2 points, then this graph is not a function. And it's going to be this answer. It is not a function. Next, what are the domain and range of the function? Okay. Domain, range of the function. And the answer is, okay. This is our next question. So what do we have? We need to determine, first of all, if the graph is a function or not. So obviously this one is going to be function because wherever I provide line, it's going to cross 1 time. So it is a function. The graph is a function. Okay, the next question, we are going to identify domain. Domain is of all possible values of x. So it's going to be, look, from this point and plus its point, its solid point, that means it's going to be square bracket, from negative pi to positive pi, right? So negative pi, positive pi. How about range? Range is going to be -1 because lowest point of y is -1. Highest point of y is +1. So range is going to be -1, +1. Okay, next question, intercepts. What are the intercepts? Since here doesn't ask Y-intercept or X-intercept, it just asks intercepts. So we are going to put as points, okay? So what intercept is going to be? First one is this one, negative pi, x is going to be 0. Right? Because it's a coordinate. So we don't put square brackets or other brackets. So let me change this color also real quick. Okay. So negative pi 0. Next point is going to be pi 0 also, right? Here it is. It's going to be pi 0. And we have another. Intercept, yes, right here, which is going to be 0 and 0. Okay, now let's determine if the graph of this graph is symmetrical. Is the graph symmetrical? So the graph can be symmetrical with respect to x-axis, y-axis, and in respect to the origin. So this one is symmetric to origins. Look here. This is one part, right? And this is the other one. And it's symmetric to origin. Okay. Symmetric to origin. All right. Next question. This is what's going to be our next question. Okay, so first thing we need to identify, do we have a function or not, or just graph without function, representing function? So no, it is not a function, right? Because if we provide vertical line, we can see it's crossing in 2 points, this and this. Okay. First of all, not a function. Next, let's identify, okay, if it's not a function, then we don't need to identify domain, intercept, symmetry, right? Not necessary to identify domain, range, symmetry. Okay. So next question. All right. Next question. Okay, what do we have in this case? Does the graph represent a function? Obviously, yes, this is a function. And period. Next question, what is going to be the domain in this case? What is going to be our domain? What do you think? It's going to start. Look, this arrow is running to this y-axis, right? But as you can see, it doesn't cross, which means this is what we're gonna do. So it's x when it's running to y-axis, then the value of x is gonna be 0, right? But because it never touches the 0, we put parentheses, right? All right. And where is it ending? Domain. Domain is ending at this point, which is point 2. Since it's an empty circle, right? Then we put parentheses here. So neither end is not included in the domain. How about range? What is going to be range? So range is always running from negative to positive. Range is always going this way, right? From negative, because here is negative infinity, here is positive infinity. From the bottom to the top. So what is going to be range? It's coming from negative infinity and it's going to stop where? Right at this point, right? gonna stop right at this point, and because the circle is empty, therefore the coordinate 3 is not included also in the range. So it is going to be negative infinity, comma, positive 3. Okay? So what is the y-intercept here? Do we have the y-intercept here? Let me write down. Because it's not asking intercepts, so therefore we don't put in the format of coordinate. It's just asking y-intercept. Okay, so what is the y-intercept we have here? Is it crossing where? Correct, there is no y-intercept. Okay, none. And x-intercept? Where do we have x-intercept? Right here. And that is value of 1, right? X is equal 1. All right. And also, is the graph symmetric? Do we see any symmetry? Is it symmetric to x? No. Is it symmetric to y? No. Is it symmetric to origin? Again, no. So the graph is not symmetric. So we put no symmetry. All right. Moving to next question. Okay, so is this a graph? Yes, if we provide vertical, is this a function? Yes, if we provide vertical line, we will see it will cross the graph in one spot only. So we are dealing with function. Next, what domain do we have here? So since we don't have any interruption on the graph, and both graphs are running to infinity, right? There is no stopping point, right? Look here. Then the domain is going to be negative infinity, positive infinity, right? The domain is running from negative infinity to positive infinity, like that. Okay? Range? What is going to be the value of range? So it's running from negative infinity to positive infinity, right? So from negative infinity coming, does it run to positive infinity? Of course not. It stops right here. Right, at this point. And which this point is 8. So it's going to be negative infinity. What do you think? This 8 is going to be included or not? Yes, it's going to be included because it's part of the graph and there is no break. So there we go. Next, we need to find intercepts. So because we need to find intercept, we are going to put in the format of coordinate, right? Okay. So what intercepts we have? One intercept is right here. And this is negative 12. So gonna be negative 12 and 0. What other intercept we have? Let me see. This point, which is going to be 12 and 0, it's symmetric, right? What else do we have intercept? yes, we have intercept here. This one is going to be Y-intercept. So it's going to be 0 and then 8. Okay? Next, is the graph is symmetrical? Yes, it is symmetric with respect to y. Right? Look, this part symmetric to this part, and it's symmetry coming about y-axis, right? So symmetry y-axis. Okay. So next we have, so that was information about the function on the based on graph, based on given graph. Now let's do algebraically. Let's get information algebraically. So we have f of x is equal 4x squared minus x minus 3. Okay, first question is the point -2 and 15 on the graph of this f, or f of x? Okay, how are we going to find out? So we are going to plug f of -2, right? X is -2, and see if we get the 15. 4 times -2 squared minus 2 minus 3. So this is equal, -2 squared is 4, 16, plus 2 minus 3. 16 plus 2 is 18, minus 3 is 15, which means yes, this point belongs to the graph. It's on the graph. Question number 2, B. What do we have? If fx is equal to, what is the f of x and what point is on the graph of f? Okay, so x is equal to, we need to find f of 2. So we practically need to evaluate f of 2. So f of 2 is going to be equal 4 times 2 squared minus 2 minus 3. And it's going to be 11. So f of 2 is equal 11. Next question. What is the domain of f of x? What is the domain of f of x? Okay, how are we gonna figure it out? So here we are looking, do we have any division here that will include x in the denominator? No. If we need to identify domain algebraically, if there is no division by x, then our domain is going to be negative infinity, positive infinity. Okay? So next we need to find intercept, X-intercept, and then Y-intercept. Okay? So to find X-intercept, we need to take y is equal 0 algebraically. That's mean 4x squared minus x minus 3 is equal 0. if I solve this equation, 4x squared minus x minus 3, let me solve it. Okay, I'm going to solve with a method of Vieta discriminant. So I will go slow, but I will put the reference to solving quadratic equations by discriminant. So in this case here, we are going to get x minus 1, and I'll put at the end, so you would watch it how to break it down into parentheses, x minus 1, and then 4x plus 3 is equal 0. From here, x is equal 1, and x is equal negative 3/4. So here we have X-intercept. It's going to be 1, you write down X-intercept. It's going to be 1 and 0, and it's going to be negative 3/4 and 0. Okay? Now we need to identify Y-intercept. To identify Y-intercept, we are taking x is equal 0. So Y-intercept is equal, let's see, 4 times 0 squared minus 0 minus 3. And it's equal negative 3. So Y-intercept is 0, negative 3. Okay, next one. We have f of x is equal x plus 2, x minus 4. Okay. So first question is the point 3 and 7 belong to the function? Okay, so let's plug. 3 plus 2, 3 minus 4. So we are getting here 5. Here we are getting negative 1, which is negative 5. The answer is no. Does not belong. Belong to the function. Okay. Next one, x is equal to, how much is going to be f of 2? So we get 2 plus 2, 2 minus 4, and it's going to be 4 over negative 2, which is equal negative 2. All right. Next. So using the information in the previous step, we can say that the point on the graph where x is equal 2 is negative 2. So it's going to be 2 and negative 2 coordinate. Next one, what is the domain? Okay, do we have here break? We have x in denominator, then and plus we have minus there. So we definitely have a break. So we start with marking down that denominator never can be equal 0 because we cannot divide by 0. And from here, x cannot be equal 4. And this 4 is going to break down domain into two parts, two intervals. So it's going to be from negative infinity to 4. 4 is not included because it cannot be. And that's the whole reason we are writing like that. And it's going to be 4 to positive infinity. This sign we read as an OR, guys. Okay? All right, next question. Find the X-intercept and Y-intercept. Okay, let's find. To find X-intercept, we are taking Y is equal 0, right? So Y is equal 0. We have X plus 2, X minus 4 is equal 0. Okay, from here, that means since X minus 4 cannot be equal 0, therefore X plus 2 is equal 0, and X is equal negative 2. So the, what do we have here? X-intercept, yeah. It's going to be negative 2 and 0. Now let's figure out Y-intercept. Therefore, we are taking X is equal 0, right? If X is equal 0, then we are getting 0 plus 2 and 0 minus 4 is equal our, how much? Negative 1/2. So that means Y-intercept is going to be 0 and negative 1/2. Okay, let me solve one more and I will be done. So we practically identified information, taking information from the graph, and the same information we can take algebraically given the equation of the graph, right? All right, so we have f of x. This is going to be the last one. 8x squared over x to 4 plus 16. All right, so real quick, value at the point negative 2 and 1, does it belong to this equation or graph of this equation? Well, let's figure it out. F of negative 2 is equal 8 times negative 2 squared, negative 2 to power 4 plus 16. Well, let me see, 16. I don't believe it's gonna be 1 here, but well, let's check. Let's check. So 8 times 4, yes, it's gonna be. I didn't, in my mind, I didn't square it, negative 2. Okay, then it's going to be negative 2 to power 4 is 16 plus 16. So 32 over 32. We are getting 1. So yes, the point belongs to this equation, to the graph of this equation. Next one, x is equal 1. So f of 1 is equal f times 1 squared, 1 to 4 plus 16. And we are getting, here is 8, here is 17. So f of 1 is equal 8 over 17. Next, what is the domain here? All right, what is going to be the domain? We have here x in denominator, but do we see any chance that our denominator can turn into 0? There is no chance, right? The x can be anything. this denominator will never turn to 0. Therefore, domain, it's going to be negative infinity, positive infinity. Remember, every time when you have x in denominator, obviously you have to pay attention when you see x in denominator. But if in denominator this x is connected with plus, then there is no way you will have their break in the or interruption in the graph or division by 0. This division by 0 and providing that break on the graph. Okay. Now in this case, since there is no way you will never get 0 in denominator, then domain is going to be from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now let's find x and y intercept. So for x-intercept, we are taking y is equal 0. 8x squared divided by x to 4 plus 16 equal 0. So what does that mean? So either 8, that's mean 8x squared is equal 0, right? Let me write down here. Because x to 4 plus 16 never can be equal 0, right? Cannot be equal 0. Then 8x squared is equal 0. And from here, x is equal 0, right? So x-intercept is going to be 0, 0. And lastly, let's find out y-intercept, which means I'm taking x is equal 0, which means y-intercept is equal 8 times 0, well, square, okay, 0 to power 4 plus 16. So it's going to be 0 over 16 is equal 0. So there is only one intercept, and x and y, it's going to be 0, 0. Okie dokie. So I'm done, and I'll see you in next video.